Yes, and then I went on and said that benefits. Okay, thank you.
No, that's my
Loosen up.
And warm up.
Okay.
He did not say.
Okay.
The mayor's here.
We have to wait for Mike?
What?
We have to wait for Mike?
No, you can use the mayor because he's.
Okay, all right, well, all right, we'll call the meeting to order, being 4:30. The Public Safety Committee, Tuesday, November 20th, 2008. We'll get a roll call, please.
Counselor Dowdle?
Here.
Mayor Reed?
Here.
Counselor Armstrong?
Here.
Counselor Ensel?
Here.
Counselor McFarland?
I'm here.
And Counselor Kretzer is going to be,
Oh, sorry, Counselor Kretzer
yes,
and Counselor Kelly.
yes, all right.
Are not here.
All right, thank you. First item on the agenda, persons addressing the council on agenda items only. Any members of the public wish to come forward, address the council, and now's the time to do it. There appearing to be none, we'll move on to item number 2, reports from department representatives and discussion with councilors. Number 1, report from the Parking Violations Bureau for 2018. Chief Ritter? Any comments?
We're moving on parking.
Okay, and can I just ask, is the new item in place? The parking parking enforcement?
Yes.
Okay, and is there any issues, any concerns?
Have we developed a plan for rollout on that as far as, are initially warnings going to be given
Yes.
and then tickets, or?
To answer your question
Yes,
first,
yes.
can you ask the question again?
Sure. Any concerns? I mean, we're about like a week or two into the position, the item?
Concerns, no.
Okay,
Just trying to get her acclimated and getting up to speed. We haven't had it in place for quite a long time, obviously, so getting the things up to speed essentially is taking just a time.
okay. And
No concerns though.
I think the budget projections were $90,000.
For a calendar year.
Yes, I'm not the first week. Okay, all right.
There's
Okay.
an abundance of work.
Okay, all right.
Councilman.
Yes, as far as the rollout is concerned, I guess we're initially going to, instead of actually giving citations at first, we're going to give warnings, or?
So this is something that I've been working with community development on. It would seem appropriate from a health probation standpoint that we would want to afford the citizenry a little bit of a grace period. This is going to be breaking the rust from the nose.
Mhm.
So there's going to be a period of time where we're going to, it's not going to be a traditional warning, but going to conduct the enforcement with a quote unquote warning.
Okay, is there a time frame to that, as far as have we identified how long we're going to go through the warning stage before?
So it is still being discussed, but preliminarily 2 weeks.
Well, did you issue any warnings when she began? No? No parking, no warnings have been issued yet?
No.
No, okay. And what form, you said warning, but what form will they take?
Still yet to be determined.
Oh, okay. all right,
We can't print warnings from our ticketing
Right.
machine.
yeah,
It just only prints tickets.
right.
So
But that would be the only way you could keep track of, in the system, with what was being
Right, there would be
issued,
no
right?
need to track in this case if
Okay.
there were warnings. It's a courtesy.
Okay.
Right.
So it could just be a little piece of paper?
Yeah, it'll be something
Yeah.
that's constructed between
Okay.
people involved, just, some sort of notification that, hey, parking is coming.
Right, and it's my understanding that this enforcement officer will also be issuing citations for failure to clear sidewalks?
We'll be conducting part of the enforcement action.
All right, and I remember at some point when this was all in development, there were some zones that were, I don't know, entertained as a way of assigning who might monitor what. Do you recall that,
Yeah, I
Joe?
recall, that was part of an initial consideration. I think we moved away from that.
You did.
These are the initial sensors on the sidewalk. They do that during their patrols, and I don't think that's, I do recall that
Yeah.
about the zones and stuff like that, but I think
Yeah,
they're doing it in their.
okay, all right, so it'll be completely within the, job description of the code enforcement officer to be looking out for this kind of thing.
Correct.
Chief, do you know off the top of your head how much a ticket would be if you stay parked in a spot, like say it's 2 hours and you get a ticket? And how would she keep track? Are they chalking tires still, or is there like a
There's an
GPS?
electronic method of doing it.
Makes sense.
So,
I think I'll just offer my personal observation, and you may share this as well. To work with the Community Development Office, I think, is to create a gentle approach that we don't want to scare off people who shop downtown.
yeah,
I think what we need to do is inform the people who work downtown not to park on the streets for 8 hours a day. I think those would be the greatest offenders. Because you see it repeatedly, especially one person's store is back in 5 minutes. They've gone out to move their car. I know personally ones that do it. So if we're fearful of offending shoppers and diners in downtown, I don't think they're the greatest number of culprits. I think it's people, I know personally people who work in the county building who are upset now they're gonna have to move their cars because they're parking on the street. So that's just, this is like a double courtesy we're extending, because the ones who are offending are probably the ones in the greatest know of what they're doing. Just my comment.
That's a very valid observation. So what I can speak to that is our community service officer that's moving downtown has been taking the parking officer to different businesses downtown and explaining these
There.
things. And that is the other end of this, is that we are enforcing parking on the street for patrons, also enforcing it for people who operate the businesses, because we're not going to discriminate. If the car is parked there, just because you own the business, there are other places to park.
And are they also offering education? Just because you move your car from one spot to the one in front doesn't mean you've moved your car, does it?
Correct.
Is there education for that? Because some people think as long as it's moved 10
It'll probably be
feet.
education for enforcement.
Okay. All right, yeah, but it's an area, correct? It's not
Right,
just,
it's the section,
okay.
section of the street.
And were there cars towed during the snow event?
On Saturday?
Well,
Overnight,
yes.
overnight.
there were. Because one car was brought to my attention in front of the co-op. It's been there right along, hasn't moved, still there today. And it precludes DPW from, it looks like, cleaning the spot in front of it. So there's 2 parking spots in front of a business who has expressed concerns about parking. And there the car sits, and I'm just wondering if there's others. So there have been some towed away.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And, because we discussed the towing fee last year to make it a little more competitive, to get
Sure.
people.
It's actually something.
And I shared the email with you from a couple of calls I received on Short Palmer about 2 cars not having been moved.
So the short answer to that is there are limitations to what we can actually accomplish during a 6-hour period. The the tow period is midnight until 6 a.m. We're limited on complaint volume that the officers that are assigned to that shift can actually handle and manage to ticket and tow vehicles. We're also limited by the amount of tow companies that will respond during that period. So while every effort is made to tow every single car, sometimes we don't get them all. It's not by virtue of not trying.
Okay.
That's
so
important to know.
Just because the car is there doesn't mean it hasn't
Absolutely.
been considered. Okay.
Chief, I'd like to follow up on something you just said. So if I park my car in a 2-hour parking spot and I come out and move it in 1 hour and 50 minutes to the spot in front of it, that's not good enough.
No.
It's the section of the street.
So what do you mean section of the street? If you go to the next block over, then it's fine?
It's harder to explain than if you could see. So if we're using City Hall Place,
Sure.
there are clear sections of parking. If you look right across from City Hall, there's an area of maybe 3 or 4 parking spaces. And then there's a cutout, and then there's a no loading zone, and then there is another area of parking. It's clearly distinguishable sections of parking. Other side of the street, different street, different blocks, things like that. But moving it one parking spot ahead is in the spirit of what the enforcement is.
And so it's been a while since I've read any of the signs. Did the signs say something along those lines, with no parking for 2 hours? Or?
The arrows is what is used for that.
Okay. And if
I
someone
think that might be
This is
another
something that's been
aspect.
talked about quite a, I mean,
Right. That might be another aspect of the educational rollout as far, I mean, quite honestly, I wasn't aware of that either, that it was a different section.
Um, and if someone gets a parking ticket, they what, go to city court and can fight it? Is it?
so ultimately, that is if they choose to plead not guilty, they can request a trial.
You looking for business?
Okay.
I think it would be conflict of that. And now, what our new parking enforcement, would she be the one prosecuting these cases in city court? Okay.
So that's been part of the training period. There are a lot of things that she's just not accustomed to that, are going to be asked of her.
Mhm.
And that's going to be prosecuting the parking trial.
If I could steer the conversation back to sidewalk clearance, snow clearance. So what would you say her primary area of responsibility is? Is it downtown?
Parking enforcement down.
Right, okay, so that's really on her job is defined as dealing with parking only? No, okay. So then during or after the snowstorm has been declared ended, we have a 24-hour period of time after which, if a sidewalk isn't cleared, then the property owner is eligible for a citation. So will then that enforcement officer be, patrolling the city itself to see that sidewalks are clear?
That would likely be the scenario.
Yes, oh, good. So then that would be, a priority in terms of the job.
So sure, just like Joe said, acting as the censor, which our officers are acting in that capacity now. to
Okay,
detect
gotcha.
the
I guess I just
observable
missed
line.
that, sorry. Okay.
Will she be ticketing like people parked in handicap parking?
Absolutely.
Any other questions of the chief around this matter? No? Thank you. Item number two, council will hold 2019 budget sessions, final questions and discussions. So we'll do that at the end of the time allotment. Item number 3, agenda items brought forward from departments to be approved by committee and recommended to council. Shall
I
read?
move that these be moved to the agenda and, barring any discussion anybody has.
Okay. So you're asking that on 1, 2, and 3? And 4, correct?
Oh, yeah. I guess I neglected 3 and 4. So those 2, I guess.
So those 4.
Move all 4 items to the agenda?
Unless there's a discussion on any one of those items.
lot of questions about the management compensation proposals. Should we do that here, or should we do that during the meeting?
We can do that either way. We can do that now, or once we move, if we do move it onto the work session, or onto the agenda, we can use the work session for that.
Okay.
So, shall we move it on to the work session then?
Sure.
Okay. All right, we can do that.
But if we move it to the agenda, then we can discuss it in the work session.
Right.
because-
Yeah.
So then the motion is to move all 4 items to the agenda.
Can we discuss it now?
We can. All right, item number 1. This pertains to the request from Councilors Armstrong, Dowdell, and Ensel to adopt the manager compensation package.
And the way it's written on this piece of paper is not totally descriptive of what it will do, correct?
No, the
That's
terms and
just the
conditions.
introduction, that's
of
just the
employment.
preamble
So
kind
I
of.
think the rest of it's attached to tonight's agenda, is that right?
It is.
In all its, yes.
In all its glory.
Did the committee have an opportunity to talk to Mr. Marks about what this will do to the city's budget going forward?
Yes, we did.
Yes, we did.
I separately, and then together, Councilor Ensel and I spoke with Mr. Marks about this.
What was his assessment?
His assessment was, well, specifically, do you have a question specifically?
parks?
About
Just in general, and then I might have some specific questions as well.
Yes, that there would be a total cost to the general
General
fund of $3,550, including benefits.
Any cost anything that's not the general fund?
There's some that would go to water and sewer based on salary. Which,
Now, if I have
I
the
believe is
correct
about-
document,
Good one, Mike.
I want to make sure I do. The latest version, I think, says that salaries of our managers will continue to be augmented by the longevity payments.
Yes.
Correct.
Does that change at all?
No.
The
And-
the only exception being that we're unifying the system to include levels
Level
3
3
and
and
4
4.
as one
Right.
management sector.
And then in addition to that, then our managers will be receiving up to 1.5% per year in salary increases, is that right?
No.
No.
That would be a COLA increase to those managers who have gone off these steps
had
and
stepped out.
who have stepped out and no longer have longevity.
Yeah, if you're looking at C, are you looking at C or D?
See,
C just says that the salary schedule shall be reviewed. So all that requires of council and the mayor is a review of the salary schedule. But that if that council were to decide to increase, that it could not exceed more than 1.5% per
Right.
year.
okay.
So you'll be giving 1.5% increases to those that are stepped out,
That's
but not to
that's
the level,
D.
not to the level ones,
That's D.
to the level ones as well.
Yes, because we're going according to the same salary schedule.
But doesn't your provisions exempt level ones from this resolution?
Oh, yeah, well.
Maybe there's some things that we haven't thought right through, huh? I think.
Well, The level ones.
I mean, I think it'd be very risky to try to fix things on the fly here.
I don't think so.
Because when was the last time we had an arrangement? 28 years ago?
Correct.
And we're doing something tonight that's gonna last for potentially another 3 decades?
Not necessarily, it can be changed at any time. If that's what your level 4 agreement says.
Because the level threes were created in 1990.
I think level 4 is going away now, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
But I'm just saying, in terms of flexibility, you even said that any provision we make can be subsequently changed by any council.
Well, another concern I have while you're thinking about that one is that 1.5% per year does not equate to 1.5% per year. It equates to 1.5% per year this year. Next year it equates to 1.5% plus 1.5%. And that continues to compound over time.
Yeah, what's the 10-year projection for the cost of your program? Can you put that up on the board for us? So we can take, so the taxpayers can really understand the long-run implications of this?
I tried to do that myself, and I'd be happy to share it with you if you'd like to see.
Sure.
Would that be okay?
Sure. This is going to pertain to what now?
He's talking about compound interest of the 1.5%.
D.
Now, that only applies if after people are stepped out.
2 people currently.
And how does the step system work?
Well,
It depends.
should be attached. It was last week.
The step system really depends on what step you started at, if I'm correct. Perhaps Mr. Marks could explain it. Depends where you've come in.
Looking at it, there's, I think 14 steps, and if you start at 1, it's 6 months to raise, and then for the next 5 years, it's a raise every year. And then I think 6, 7, and 8, it's a raise every 2 years. And then I think 9 and 10, it's a raise every 3 years, and then I think there's a 4-year raise, and then, you know, you max out at step 12, like, not everybody's getting hired at step 1.
Right. It depends what step you started at.
Right.
So people negotiate starting at a higher step.
They have.
Are there level threes who are stepped out,
Yes.
such as yourself?
And
Yes.
John
Yes.
Rupp.
All right. So your level threes,
Bill Tracy.
so your level threes,
Yes.
who would be impacted by the 1.5 COLA?
Right.
Okay.
But those are the only 3 that would be impacted by the 1.5 COLA immediately?
Isn't Mike Stuttinger also, is he stepped up?
Mike Staffinger's also stepped out as a level 3, that's correct.
So there's quite a few more it'll affect than you were previously calculating.
And there's 3 level 1s that are stepped out. Be a total of 7 who were stepped out.
Right.
But
Although,
they
as the
wouldn't- they
mayor
wouldn't be
points out,
affected
this
by
provision
this.
would not cover them.
Right.
Is my understanding.
Arguably, I mean, that's what we're worried about, is what legal liabilities are you creating, because it isn't very clearly spelled out.
Well, it says
You know,
result
usually we
managers
get
who are
into-
employed with the city of Plattsburgh, except those persons currently employed as managers in the fire department, police department, and the current building inspector, or those with level 1 agreements, shall not receive the terms and conditions of employment contained in any collective bargaining agreements. Wow. I was, under the impression that none of the terms and conditions of employment here would apply to those people as well, but I could be wrong.
But I think you said you intended to have them apply a minute ago.
I did.
To level 1 or to level 3?
Well, as it's written, technically, it would only apply to level 3.
Right.
And then the mayor asked, would we want to apply this to level 1? And I said, yes, yet it's not written that way.
Has there been any previous discussion, whether it's here or elsewhere, that all managers should receive COLAs? Does anybody have any recall of that?
What's the question?
If there's been any previous discussion, if all managers should receive a COLA, whether it's been here or elsewhere, has that ever been discussed?
Discussion for years about COLA, so that should specifically look at what you're asking.
Just if there's been any discussion that all managers should receive COLAs.
There was talk about managers getting
I think there's an expectation that that would be equitable and fair.
There was discussion.
That's been discussed a number of times.
Okay, I'd like to draw your attention to the spreadsheet. I guess we can make it a little larger.
So these are all the people who would be stepped out when? Because that's what D applies to.
These are all our managers.
Okay, so why are you calculating for all of them?
Scenario compared to what was existing, compared to what you're proposing, to try to figure out the tax implications on it. So it's looking like next year, 28,000. 5 years from now, 150,000 per year of additional costs. And put in perspective, that's the total road building budget we have. In 10 years from now, 322,000.
All right,
So
why
we
don't
just
you
need to find out where the money is,
Yeah,
because
why
we have
don't
an
we,
agreement.
why don't you explain to me how you're arriving at that and how that figure is so different than what we discussed with the Chamberlain? Maybe the Chamberlain could then weigh in on how we came up with a $3,500 increase to 2019, and now suddenly we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars.
The 7 people that weren't receiving raises already or aren't already in a step program of some kind.
They've stepped out, is that what you mean?
Yep. The total increase for them in 2019, if you were to start at the beginning of the year, would be $9,700, and with benefits of 30% for payroll benefits only, FICA, retirement, workers' compensation, be a total of $12,632. The ones affecting the general fund would be 1/3 of the superintendent and myself. It's $2,148, and with benefits, it's $2,792. The other impact that was discussed this morning with me was changing the level 4s to level 3s, and the net difference in the calculation with benefits there, with putting them in the scale at a certain point and giving them the next step next year at their anniversary dates was another $757 in total impact in the 2019 budget. Now that would be in addition to what's already budgeted for increases for 3 people.
All level 4s?
No,
No?
no, that is the level 4s.
Those are,
Okay, that's what I mean.
757 more. There are 3 people that are in level 3 status that are getting steps next year that are already budgeted in 2019.
Right.
The others aren't budgeted until, wouldn't be budgeted until 2020 because they're in the 2-year step or the 3-year step range.
Does your calculation also subtract the 2.5% increase that's in the budget, the CDO's budget for
Yes.
raises? Okay.
It's the net increase.
Okay.
Wait, so I'm thinking what Rochelle's pointing out though is this graph seems to show a 1.5% increase for every employee, even if they're not stepped out yet. Is that correct?
Right, so you can go and take that column I and stop giving COLA raises to some people if you wish. Just take the Y out.
Well, I just think that
But-
it's a little bit of a dramatic, you know, kind of a dramatic scenario that is irrelevant to this discussion.
Can I show you something that's not quite so dramatic? Okay. This chart here shows you what our managers currently make. Let's take Mr. Ruff, for example. Water and sewer plant supervisor. According to this chart, makes $121,399, it says there. So, the state average for that position is $79,594. Mr. Ruff already makes 152% above the state average. I'm wondering why anyone would feel that we need to give him any more money. What's your rationale? What are you thinking? What's your objective here? That's what I'd like to know.
Our objective, well, go ahead, Dale.
No, go ahead, keep going.
Well, our objective is stated in the preface to our actual resolution, and that is to attract, sustain, and sustain.
I saw that, Rochelle, and I did have a question about that too.
Well, let me finish.
Sure.
All right. And as far as I can tell, this comparison isn't necessarily one that reflects all of the variables involved in the assessment of a position and the worth of an employee. I think, I don't know the direct correspondence between the duties of, you know, an official from Amsterdam versus that which we depend upon from the services of John Ruff.
Let me ask you something, Mike. Do you know if each one of these positions as a water sewer plant supervisor is considered an engineer position with an engineering degree?
John Ruff is a heck of a good guy. He's been with us for 35 years, as that chart indicates. But is John Ruff worth 152% of the state average? And let me
I'll say yes, Mr. Kelly.
Let me ask
I think we should probably really stay away from individuals here and just focus on.
No.
I don't mind either.
You want to stack up the things I do for the city, the money I brought in, the savings I provide, I'm willing to do that anytime.
John Ruff has been a player in this game ever since it began.
What are you talking about?
What game am I talking about?
Yeah.
It's the game where a few counselors get convinced somehow that our people need more money.
Excuse me. I would like to interrupt and assert that you've been a part of this effort. This effort was a result of a long period during which there were no changes to managerial compensation package that was last revised in 1990. You know that Ann Chase was one of the people in our staff who initiated this reevaluation. You know that you participated in it during Colin
Correct.
Reed's tenure.
We reached an impasse when we actually started trying to reduce cost, Rochelle. That's where we reached an impasse. And that's where we always say we reach an impasse, is if we try to reduce benefits in any way, then
Well, I
we can't do it.
believe that with the increase of workload as a result of restructuring, that it's more than fair to compensate for whatever duties have been increased.
Well, getting back to John Ruff is a
No,
great guy.
I would prefer that you just state the position.
I would too, actually.
I'll state position, okay. Let's look at DPW. Our DPW person makes 114 and change a year. State average is 84, I believe it says there. Yeah.
Once again,
135%
Can I say something?
You say whatever you
You want to around the room? I want to say something to you. It's what we are responsible for.
Yeah.
You sit there and compare me to some guy in Schenectady or Saratoga. He's nothing to do the same job I do.
well, that's the thing. You've got a spreadsheet, and we seem to be only willing to look at spreadsheets and not the actual work that is being done. There's no way we can be sure that any one of these people in those positions does the same amount of work as our managers, and certainly not now, because they are, especially in DPW, responsible for doing much more work than they did before the restructuring.
In this latest round of proposals to give our managers more money, I tried to understand, how's that happen? How did we get to this point where we're overpaying by, I think the average is, I don't know. It's a very large amount.
I'd really not want to focus on overpaying anybody. I'm trying to focus on where do we get the money to do this
And I don't
program.
buy your
I don't
statistics
wanna
that
take-
you put
I
up
don't-
on that
I don't
spreadsheet.
want to take money away from anybody. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to take anybody's money away from them. This is what we've elected to pay. But I did have to ask myself the question, how did we get to this point? How did we get to a point where we pay higher salaries than any city in the state? How did we get to this point?
But I don't think we can fix that. I mean, it's an artifact of history. We are where we are. Let's
Well,
just now figure out how we're going to afford
But
this
once
package.
again, the logical fallacy is that we're relying upon these statistics, which are very sparse. We have no idea what they really represent in terms of the work that is done. So that to me is useless.
If we go to Watertown, their streets are just fine, just like ours. If you go to any of these cities, they all have the same services we do, basically. One other thing I'll say about this is I don't think I'm going to change anybody's mind with facts and figures at this point, but if you look over to the right of this spreadsheet, let's see if I can make it a little bit larger. If you look over to the right, it costs the city of Plattsburgh $733,000 a year to compensate our managers. So our current pay scale, we pay $733,000 a year, okay? Now, and for our 19,000 citizens, that comes to $37.06 each citizen has to pay to have our management team.
And our managers are in charge of operations and a high level of quality services upon which all of our taxpayers depend. And
Yes.
I resent the insinuation that somehow that $37 is not worth it to them.
Okay. but
Because
you-
the management, as stated in our proposal, they're in charge of the way our city runs.
All I'm saying is that every other city on that list is getting a much better deal than we are.
We don't know that. I don't think that chart shows that at all.
You ever go to Watertown? They got streets, they got water.
I
Is
think
that-
that's an
Is that all
oversimplification.
general fund money?
I'm not sure, John. to tell you the
That makes a
truth.
big difference.
Because we've seen this chart before. We're going very similar to it. The night that we abolished the engineering department, I think we showed a salary of $110,000, which was a three-way split, was it not? Now, where does that go? What has that added to the general fund with the abolition of the engineering department? We also saw figures on building inspector. Well, I looked at Cortland, when that was put up, Cortland issued 2 new housing permits for the whole year. That year, I think we issued 36. So the work level is different. I also recall when we hired the community developer at $6,000 more, I questioned that. And I was told by you, Councilor Kelly, well, maybe ours is going to do more work than the other ones around the state. So that's applicable to this chart as well then.
I'm perfectly happy with, if every one of those numbers in red at the bottom, PLB to averages, was 110% or 115%. I wouldn't quibble about that. Some of those numbers are large, 139%. Council makes 148% more than average. The water plant supervisor, I said, 152%. The only people we seem to be paying a little less than average are the community development director and the mayor.
I will note on that graph, it does seem that Plattsburgh's the only one that has a manager in every single column.
That is true. That is true. And you can take out, let's say, I noticed that also, you can take out the electric supervisor. There's only 3
Yes.
of those, okay? Let's take that out of the equation just for a second. Let's see what happens.
Again, I'd really encourage us to not talk about the value of our employees. They are valuable.
Yeah,
We just
well,
need to figure
we
out where
are.
we're gonna get the money to do the program.
You can say that, but that's
But I-
exactly what
but
we're
I think
doing.
that's a big part of
Who made
this equation.
chart? Who made
They
this
are,
chart?
Yeah.
they are
Yeah.
extremely,
Where'd
they
the
are
chart-
extremely valuable.
Where'd
Where
the
does the
chart
chart
come
come
from?
from, by the way?
The New York Conference of Mayors provided the data.
But who made the chart?
I made the chart.
I have a question.
Yes.
When you say water and sewer plant supervisor, you're talking about the jobs that, say, Bill Todd or Mike Stappinger or Chris Gushlaw do versus an environmental engineer?
No, these are
With
just,
John's required, with his requirements?
these are
And when
just
you talk about a
department heads.
treasurer,
Just
excuse me,
department
let me
heads.
finish, please.
Yes.
If you talk about a treasurer, does that compare to what I have to do for a living? A treasurer is specific to just managing the cash
Yes.
of a city.
Are they doing
It
HR?
would.
Does it do the budget?
Nobody
Does it do
said,
the HR?
nobody
Does it
said
do
these
the risk
numbers are
management?
perfect.
Why do you want to keep interrupting me? Why can't
I'm
you let
sorry,
me finish?
I'm sorry, finish.
I don't do that to you.
No, you don't. Please finish. Please,
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry. Please finish.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that, you know, when you're comparing these things, it's not an apples to oranges comparison, because we do quite a few tasks in addition to just what the job descriptions say.
HR.
A treasurer just moves the
that's
cash
good.
around and takes care of the financing for the city.
But the question is, well, I have two questions. One, do you need any more money to do those things? And two, can the city afford to pay more money?
Well, the city can seem to afford to pay additional money to the unions every year. And you ask how the city became the highest paid employer in Clinton County, because of going 3%, 3% raises for all of its unions for years, for decades.
And that's another game we
And
play.
yet, the manager's salaries stopped getting an increase in 2007, but the unions didn't. And like I said to the mayor today, it's like we were very proud of just getting a 1.5% increase for the MLD workers, who already have the highest paid MLD rates in all of New York State, and sometimes in excess of twice as much as jobs to a comparable city like Messina. They have longevity built into their pay rates at 2%, 4%, 6%, 8% for 5, 8, 10, 15 years. They get that same pay rate into their overtime. That longevity goes into their overtime as well. And yet a 1.5% increase for them is not being projected out for 20 years, what that's going to do to the impact of the ratepayers in the city of Plattsburgh. It's only the managers we're focusing on. I just don't understand it.
Well, may I speak now, Richard? Or
Sure.
I don't want to interrupt you
Sure.
again.
I won't interrupt you either.
That's another game we play here in the city. We played it for as long as I've been in city government. The unions say, well, we need this. Look what the managers have, okay? So, you know, they get increases and better benefits and whatnot. And then the city managers turn around and say, well, look at the unions. They're getting this. Maybe I should stay in the union. I've heard that before. Maybe we should form our own union. I've heard that before. So it's a vicious circle. And somebody has to call attention to it and make it stop, or it will go on forever. No wonder we're in the mess we're in financially, because of that vicious circle. And are the unions right? No. Are our managers right to play off that and try to get more for themselves? I want to say no.
All right, so.
So then my answer is zeros for everybody. And that'll solve the financial crisis for the city.
All right,
Zeros for everybody.
in the interest of time, it's 5:10, and our time allotment was to 5. And we can take this into the work session as well, but to wrap up the Public Safety Committee. To move these items forward into the work session, can I have a roll call, please?
First and second.
Pardon?
I need a
Yes,
first and
the first,
I'll say.
Dowdell and Kelly. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
All right, thank you. Any, item number 4, any old business to be brought forward? Number 5, any new business to be brought forward? Seeing none, can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So it's the beginning of our work session?
Yes, it is.
If you'd like to, then continue. Any items on the agenda you'd like to have end the conversation?
Well, I'd just like to reiterate that I would like for this council to be the one to break that vicious circle I just described to you. If we could do that, if we could have a rosier financial picture. If we could do that. I don't think we're going to do it tonight. I think you got your 4 votes. You're going to vote on this, but think about what you're doing to the taxpayers.
I don't really believe that you've proven that this would have as dramatic an impact on the taxpayers. I think that Chamberlain Marks sufficiently rebutted your point, and I just really don't feel it's necessary for you to keep pushing that point that I don't think you've proven.
Chamberlain Mark's last suggestion that we go zeros for everyone.
Well, that may be true, but here's what his answer was to my question about the discrepancy between his projections and what we saw on the chart. And I think what you're doing is basing your argument on a chart that has yet to prove that this will mean a dramatic increase in taxes for the public.
But don't you think we owe it to the taxpayer to really clearly describe what the long-term implications of every one of us? We've got a gentleman's agreement, ladies and gentlemen's agreement in this group, that if we're going to propose an increase somewhere, we have to be able to propose a decrease somewhere else, because it's very important to a number of members of this council to make sure the taxes don't rise. So we just need to come up with a plan together that addresses it. So it's not an issue that one side hasn't disproven or proven. We need to be all comfortable with what the implications
let's
are.
just take-
And we haven't passed the budget yet, so I think we can go back in and look at potential places that can be saved. At least for 2019.
Well, and another point that I felt was addressed with the development of this proposal was going back to a step system and eliminating a discretionary and arbitrary raise system that had been approved with the agreement for level 4s.
And this gets rid of that.
This gets rid of it.
brings everyone
And here's a little history. In the 70s, that's exactly the kind of system that was used to award raises. And I've spoken to some people who have kind of illustrated the problems that arose as a result of applying that kind of system. People openly saying to an employee, you don't deserve a raise, you don't do enough as it is. I mean, that's kind of the flip side of what we heard during the discussion when Councilor Ensel questioned the award of 2.5% to the level 4s. Now, that was painful. I thought that was embarrassing. And it was interesting to me that during our discussion with the mayor about the question of whether we should go to the merit system, he agreed that there should, if that system were to be employed, that there should be objective criteria and a formula used in order to make that award. That was abandoned, and the suggestion was made that perhaps we should just go back to the, having 3s and 4s and let the people who were
In fact, I believe it was said that that would provide more savings in the long run.
So here's the thing, though. I recall when I asked you, Mayor, whether when you had decided upon with your director how you arrived at the 2.5% and what kind of evaluation criteria were used, you only described something very general, like they did a great job, they worked overtime and so forth. And I just felt that that was evidence of how arbitrary such an award could be.
And subjective.
And subjective. So part of the mission in returning to the salary scale is to make sure that there's a predictable and equitable system by which raises can be awarded. And that, in effect, also helps with the budgeting system, because we can depend upon a certain schedule of raises as well as predict out what financial ramifications of those raises are.
Did any members of the committee talk to taxpayers about this proposal? Did you get the taxpayers' input about it?
I think
We all are
what
taxpayers.
we have behind us are years full of discussion, stagnant wages for our managers, a very challenging work atmosphere that includes a great deal more duties for many of our managers as a result of the restructuring process. And for me, the impact on the taxpayer is minimal, and the taxpayer will benefit in the long run from a staff who is able to work knowing that they have been
And feel
awarded-
appreciated,
Pardon?
and feel appreciated
Yes.
and respected.
You don't think that those kinds of salaries indicates respect?
We've been through that argument, and I believe that we can never agree on the validity of that chart.
Well, I mean, the figures came from NICOM. You can believe
They,
them or not.
they
believe
are
them.
on their
I don't-
face,
I don't
do
think they
not
lie.
reflect the complexities involved in any one of those assignments.
They're averages. I mean, you
No.
know, you expect some anomalies, and averages take away some of those anomalies. Wouldn't you please take
I'm
that
done.
into
But
account
I
also?
don't think anyone is arguing to change anybody's salaries.
No.
I
not
just
at
want to
all.
figure out where we get the money to pay for this and how much is it going to cost
I'd like
us
to request an executive session.
for the purposes of.
Well, number one, I would like to discuss the negotiations about the footbridge. And number two, I would like to discuss the terms and conditions of a specific employee.
Second? Second by Councilor McFarland. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I just squeezed my shoe back.
They don't say what the staff is, right? Okay, so they could give a building inspector salary for water company, they could have 12 people working in the office, they get straight.
Everybody, you know, as they're going. Yeah. I mean, it has,
Burlington, they're,
Did you watch it?
yeah, but we don't rich. Is your door open so I can steal some candy?
No.
That's right, yeah.
No, he hasn't called it.
We wrap that even tin, did I
Yeah.
say that? The even amount.
And, you know,
Wrap it.
when
You actually see where the other side would have been getting it too. You never know. And it must be. And early spring season when it's low.
Because we know where it all is, you know, we're right outside.
Yeah. It just did not make sense.
It was fun.
That's amazing. I mean, the set of circumstances, they could have put the Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, she was at the downtown bar, is like the mom. Yeah. Like, wait a minute.
That's harsh.
He based most of his report. And the IG's report, based on.
Set a date, time, waited for it, it never showed up. So he has no clue what to do.
Well, there's also this thought about how we're willing to stay back.
You said it right. No, absolutely.
I mean, the whole thing's got a study.
They can. We had MLB tickets here before. You know what, if you want to negotiate in good faith, that's not true, right? It worked fine. It really shook them into reality and they started to look at,
Really wanna know?
So that's for 4 and 5%. And you get in trouble when it first came here. You know, you do 3% for 20 years in a row, and adds up to serious money. That's where
They
the
have
system is.
elements
That's
that
where we are right now. With the highest paid employer in the county, we are stealing people from the county, like, left and right, because our jobs are 2 and 3 levels lower. Are paying higher.
The girl I just got is a $10,000 raise for her.
Sure. Yeah.
That's where he asked me.
Well, we had that same position over in MLB. Pays $10,000.
Yeah, I'm thinking about taking
today.
MLB is out of control.
Because he hasn't watched Paul.
Out of control. I mean, you look at some of the Messina jobs, and here, twice as much for the same size system.
I could go take the line number test to make $1,000 a year more for MLB than I want to make
He's
now.
like, yeah.
And that's just the line number, that's not even a line.
Did you guys notice that we made a proposal just for the, people next thing?
That's not what that means.
That wasn't a text, email.
That's what I got.
From that?
Yeah.
That means you guys are still in the steps for 2.5.
Yeah, that's fine. That's what I'm looking for.
Still wanna go back with it?
Remember the first?
I just want to know what it's going to be.
The first thing we took on was to just stop everything, put it in this budget. Up to, said, hey, calculate what it should be. And then everybody gets.
Even though I had
That's what it's the first. Oh, I said,
Let it ride.
okay.
Somebody bring this
So
up.
I had already watched it.
I'm not saying that to you.
I said, I put the rules about, you know,
Oh my God.
negotiation, what are the taxpayers getting? What it's like.
It's not that.
Just so you know where it starts.
Right.
And then say, okay, this is yours to bang, and then the chunk of equipment. And if you're being promoted, again, you with a chart.
We did it exactly.
But that's the story.
If 5 years is right, what do you get back?
Get
Three people right here that are maxed out. I've never heard anyone whine about not getting it. I mean, it's tough, but I've never heard that.
But is anyone, has anyone here asked?
Going back and forth.
I mean, this is the first time I'm involved with that. He's tired of this shit. Let's go through this for 3 or 4 years now. It's like 7.
You're the old vocal, but you mean begging for a raise, none of us.
The only thing you should hear John and myself, every year, like,
I have a different opinion of phone agreement. Well, 2012.
One of the main reasons I
That's the last time we scheduled.
came.
We also went to site in 2014.
Yeah, I remember.
It was 800 across the board.
Mm-hmm. Saturday's paper? Saturday's paper? It's just not a good one. You mean the state games?
Rich has got to be.
Yeah, he does.
That's interesting.
We're a dumbass, huh? Talk about it, dumbass.
This year, appreciate it.
Yeah, okay.
Good crocodile. No, I don't think so. I think the guys got the commendations for the guys shoveling the blacktop this year. You guys deserve a medal.
No, we deserve a letter to file.
Oh, letter.
That's right.
And.
Yeah, I got one.
No.
Oh, just been trying to get as much money as I can.
You should see the comments on the YouTube video.
And then,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know.
Right now? Oh, yeah. Good, because that's live stream.
I'll spend out.
People look at shit. Pretty much counted. Some of these are comments. No, I didn't see one comment about that.
Especially Ethan over here.
Ethan kid.
That works, but.
Next year, you can have
$125 an hour. So Ethan would say, shit, if you had a mouthful of it.
Next year, Ethan's gonna get my job.
There you go.
Ethan,
you might want to go sit with police and fire. You don't want to be associated with us.
Ethan, I'll give you 1 month training, and everything you need now. It's gonna be off and running.
Watch out for that
Well,
silver hair.
Rich will be
devil
off
over
and
there.
No, 1 month training, man. All set. Maybe the whole thing. I think we need you. You're younger, smarter, you got more energy.
Nah, it's just smarter.
Oh, brag
You're
about
definitely
it.
smarter, so.
Anybody can use an adding machine.
I think you gotta do it.
I'm sorry, Rich.
I know. It's much tougher than, much tougher with a slide rule, right?
It's so easy, you can caveman.
Or Sylvia told us.
Yes, there we go.
building maintenance. Municipal buildings, she just, what she does a great job. Yeah, she got me to help her fix her broken window down here last week.
Yeah.
She got me to hang her key box for her too.
Yeah.
I mean, we're ready when the first announcement came out.
She saved $280 for buying a new key box, because she said, hey, can I take
At
one
home.
of those out of your office? So, she said, hang it for me too. Said, what's the key box? She needs a box for all the keys, to all the doors, and all the buildings, city hall.
I think I was included, I think I'm like the second person, second on call here.
She got it in her office. I'm retired.
I think so. Because if the alarms go off, they shut the elevator down. And those need to be reset, otherwise, handicap accessible. That's the worst part, it's not the public humiliation.
There's nothing better than
One 21, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We all think we know what everyone does.
It's a fun chart, though. It's a fun chart.
I have ideas.
Somebody put that together.
Oh, okay. What's the reaction?
This was a fuller.
We get the whole group standing. I don't know.
Well, yeah, you should. You should use sand.
Quarter inch sand, yeah.
Yeah, just use sand and chip. It's like, yeah, how thick can you put it down? What was there?
So what do you guys got going on, Rick?
You can go ahead, you can go ahead. Basically, size is 1 inch. Yeah, so just.
So how did you come to be that?
Well, it starts dragging. So we did ask, so we wanted to discreet, it drags itself, yeah. So they have, you gotta have some sent out letters. You gotta have some, you gotta have some, you gotta have some, you gotta have some sign up. This is underneath. 16, 15 people actually show up. Yeah, we wanted them as small groups. I remember the conversation, so we set up online. Sign up. It didn't work, we can always contact our office.
Okay.
Just a chance for them to get out and ask, like, I created a slideshow. And he was gonna reroute the waterway through
Oh,
Searcy.
my lord.
It's
That shirt and stuff.
You're in a room that's buzzing, electricity, that's water, top of the
No, so we're like, yeah, let's make sure we set the same.
They're both unstable. They both say, I don't know, how things are moving.
I didn't see one when I was down there.
Some kind of feedback to support. if that's a start.
Looks like it's just.
All these realize how much snow we're supposed to get?
Sums again?
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying, of all these people.
I'm surprised you didn't get pushed off your chair.
Yeah, which is probably like, but I think it's the early ones get mine. It starts off the water.
Yeah.
That's 30 like of course.
What the hell kind of winter are we gonna have if it's starting this early?
Yeah, just
It's no good.
So they have
The golf season actually started out.
Yeah, right.
We'll see.
No more
I was gonna
stay golfing.
I know, I was gonna try and get Brian out and say, hey, look, stop running, stop like one and four balls on. That's over.
Yeah.
That's just
more than I can kind of talk to a lot of cities.
He's running and riding bicycle.
they're doing it.
Yeah.
They're doing it, they're doing it. He's obsessed.
Yeah. Because we went and watched him come in and did the hat.
Unless like they got 40, sorry.
Well, I don't
No,
know.
it's certainly like,
And they
then
run.
they run. Yeah, I mean, how they do it. Can you imagine a full iron?
And it's not all young people,
Nope.
it's a bunch of old people.
Yeah, Dr. Hyde did it. And other people did this for certifications.
Brian says it's not a sport for faint of heart, it's for the people who can't afford it.
Oh.
So you gotta really be able to afford to do it.
Yep, bicycles, physical equipment, all the equipment.
The swimming part would
Well, and then you come out and it's cold.
Yeah, yeah.
Brian's, the water was warmer than the air. So we were sitting in the water waiting to start because it was freezing outside.
They start out with a swim.
Yep. And they're wet, most people wear wetsuits and sit to get that off and get on a bike.
Yeah, because you don't wanna jump on a bike in the wetsuit.
Yeah, we keep it a little slippery. And you freeze.
And hot. Wetsuits are very warm.
Yeah, freeze after, until you get warm.
Oh, that's true.
Because you just got out of the wet, cold.
Well, yeah, the reason the wetsuits are so warm is because there's a layer of water between you and the suit that warms up. But yeah, once you get out of the water, then you're freezing your butt off, that's right. I've worn wetsuits, but it's great. They keep you warm in the water. Oh, boy.
We'll go in and take notes during the executive
session? No, not Wednesday.
Say what?
Yeah, when they were here.
So everybody
Oh,
comes,
really?
this is the biggest, everybody comes up. Well, we have a back porch that we converted to part of the house. Renting hall for the day. We take all the furniture out,
Yeah,
put
so I gotta
tables
put
in there,
together some.
and we have a big counter in the kitchen, which is out. You know, everybody has an assignment. Yeah, it's crazy. But, yeah, everybody.
Do you have earmuffs so they don't go deaf?
Yeah. But, so we do things that everybody comes home for. It's always big holiday, but Christmas, everybody stays their own, you know, with the kids, everybody. Well, when I asked my friend who lives in my house, but he said he's not taking one anymore.
He left a message
Okay,
on
good.
my phone. Yeah, he said he was really young and he thought it was here.
Yeah, he tried, yeah, that's what I told him, I said, well, if you can't, you give him ideas, someone should say, no, people are just, everybody's so busy, especially the first snowfall came, so many.
Yeah. I think we have to break down everybody in the store.
It's just not our turn.
It's shorter than this room, maybe half the length of this room. I've never used a snow blower before. Last year too.
Well, they didn't, they went and got so I was all like, he said, I'll show you how to use it. I was like, no, no problem, I'll just shovel. Get yourself out and leave the rest. As long as I can shovel my car, the work.
I'm way too out of shape.
Yeah. Well, I don't do much, like I said, I just do enough to get my car out.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is with the snow blower, it's like no plan to spit outside. So, what about
Come back and score with a couple of minutes. I missed that part.
learn how to use one?
Maybe you could cover it or something.
Yeah.
Target or,
Yeah, I don't know.
you're supposed to be using cold weather.
I'll run over to like Tractor Supply, see what they say. If they don't deliver, I'll have to go probably.
We'll try, Taylor and Bill. When we've got one in Peru, we have one up on Route 3, you know, by the, what's
Yeah.
and they sell them for
Defensive line?
good.
You guys see last night, you guys watch the game last night?
Yeah.
And I've seen this before, but they showed Andy Reid,
They're really good.
pump passing great contract.
Yes,
He's 13 years old.
Yes.
He's as big as you are, the kid behind him is in the same competition. He's like, that's gonna be my guess. They had to get wherever they were. passing.
Yeah, maybe.
That has Andy Reid just a uniform. Because they couldn't fit it on the like this one, like 38 yards or
I can't
something.
believe he was sitting outside and run outside to start it.
Well, we put ours in the garage.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's
No, last year,
cool.
my husband couldn't fit the car, so he put it in under like a pagoda. It's not closed, but. Every year starting, and we need to know what's in the garage. It was crazy. Finally, this year, for the first time, it started right up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want something where it's cold,
Yeah, when it's
not in the winter.
It's like it's gonna get hard, it's hard. For lawnmowers and stuff, those are hard.
I already have bad shoulders. Bad shoulders, bad knees. Okay, thanks for the heads up.
shared folders for police? Well, people got sidewalks, and they dump it in with shared folders, we send out the. Okay. I'll have to talk to you about it. We're sending out the notices. And you're supposed to be the one
Returning from executive
Yeah.
committee meeting, we discussed litigation with school district on Webb Island Bridge and contract terms for a particular individual. No decision made. So let's begin the meeting with the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mayor Reed?
Present.
Counselor Armstrong? Here. Counselor Kelly?
Here.
Counselor Dowdle?
Here.
Counselor Ensel?
Here.
Counselor McFarland?
Almost here.
Counselor Kretzer?
Here.
Have no comments. Please continue.
Resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of the Common Council held on November 15, 2018 are approved and placed on file among the public records of the city clerk's office.
Moved by Counselor Kretzer, second by Counselor Armstrong. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
Resolved that the payrolls of the various departments of the city of Plattsburgh for the week ending November 21st, 2018 in the amount of $463,703.04 are authorized and allowed, and the mayor and the city clerk are hereby empowered and directed to sign warrants drawn on the city chamberlain for the payment thereof.
Moved by Counselor Dowdle, second by Counselor Kelly. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Now let's go on to reports of city offices and committees. You have in your packet the usual reports. Let's begin then with governance strategy and city operations. Councilor Kretzer, please.
I have no updates.
City.
Yeah, I'd just like to report that we formed a committee, Plattsburgh Sustainability Committee, consisting of Dr. Lauren Eastwood, Bevan Gertz Cochran, Laura Cochran, Adam Meehan, and myself. We convened November 13th. We were visited by Alexandria Elliott, and Lisa Berman, both who had recommendations for the committee. We will be meeting next Tuesday, and we're working on a vision statement and mission statement, and we have lots of ideas, and we'll be setting goals.
Thank you. Great work. Finance and budget, Councilor Kelly.
No update.
Councilor Dowdle for public safety.
Well, we just met moments ago. Oh, I'm sorry.
Infrastructure?
Yep.
Infrastructure.
Infrastructure, oh, city infrastructure, Councilor Ensel, I'm sorry.
No report.
Longer for that.
Public safety, Councilor Dowdle.
Oh, I wish we'd have left that one off the list. Let's see, we just met moments ago. We heard from the police chief about the Parking Violations Bureau, and from that, we gained interest in hearing about the new person out there looking for different aspects, no walk violations, parking violations, et cetera. We got a little education on what it means to park for 2 hours. And we discussed, we'll hold budget sessions, and we moved agendas forward to the, we moved agenda items forward to tonight's agenda.
Public Library, Councilor Armstrong.
No updates.
And MLD Board President, Councilor McFarland.
I don't have any updates right now, but I would like to take this time to inform the public and anyone else that our upcoming MLD board meeting is going to be in 9 days, and so clear your schedule accordingly. It'll be at 4:30.
And resolved, the reports of this list are hereby ordered received, and any written reports are placed on file among the public records of the city clerk's office. Moved by Councilor Ensel, second by Councilor Dowdle. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. No correspondence or recommendations at this time.
Resolved that the bills honored by the Common Council for the week ending November 23rd, 2018 in the amount of $552,885.93 are authorized and allowed, and the mayor and the city clerk are hereby authorized and directed to sign warrants drawn on the city chamberlain for the payment thereof.
Moved by Councillor Kelly, second by Councillor Ensel. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. This is an opportunity now for the members of the public to please come and address the council on any items that are on the agenda tonight. There will be an opportunity to address the council at the end of the meeting as well for general items. And please be aware of 5-minute time limit for your comments.
Okay, this doesn't have to do directly with the management compensation agreement, but I think it is something that should be taken into consideration in anything that the council does from here going forward. We do not have a current agreement with the city firefighters, and an agreement needs to occur and will, either by litigation or negotiation. Although I would greatly prefer the negotiated solution. Be that as it may, whatever the outcome, it is a given that this will significantly affect city finances for several years. With virtually no fund balance in the coffers for funding this settlement, we will have to be paid by raising the city tax rate. The firefighters will be made whole in some manner for the years they worked without a contract, and rightfully so. Until we have the final numbers on this settlement, I believe, deliberation on non-contract issues is not well timed. I have no interest in participating in another round of terminations or layoff because we have overspent the budget. We have a responsibility to ensure that the bills get paid and the paychecks get signed. We need to take these things into consideration with everything that we do. I'm not weighing in one way or the other on the actual compensation thing because I haven't had a chance to review it or to look at the implications of it. But I do want us all to keep in mind that this is going to happen and is going to be significant. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public please come address the council? Seeing none, let's continue, please.
Request from Councilors Armstrong, Dowdell, and Ensel to adopt their management compensation package. Whereas the city of Plattsburgh...
I'd like to make a motion to table the resolution.
Moved by Councillor Kretzer. Is there a second?
There's no second?
I'll second.
Second for Councillor McFarland. All in favor to table?
Aye.
Aye.
Better do roll call.
Councilor Armstrong?
Yes.
Councilor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilor Dowdell?
No.
Councilor Ensel?
No.
Councilor McFarland?
Yes.
Councilor Kretzer?
Yes.
Motion table.
Request from Mayor Reed to adopt the following. Be it resolved that all managers will accrue 0.75 days of sick leave per month, which can be accumulated up to 1,040 hours unless this provision is more restrictive than any bona fide written agreement. Be it further resolved that the city will provide health
I'd like
insurance...
to make a motion to waive the reading and move the resolution.
Moved by Councillor Kretzer. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councillor Armstrong. Discussion. Oh, actually, vote to waive the reading. Do we need to vote to waive the reading first?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Discussion on the item itself.
This is a different manager compensation package, correct?
This is the one that I introduced a week or two ago to focus solely on the extension of benefits as we've discussed in the past. It doesn't have other consequences with regard to raises as the committee is currently
This is
considering.
currently tabled though, correct?
It is.
No.
No?
No?
We didn't table this. This was an item for initial consideration.
Oh, this was initial
Oh, yes.
consideration.
Yeah, I think we can vote on this. And I'm just curious though, oh, wait a minute. Did we got
We're discussing, yeah.
We're discussing,
Yeah.
okay. As I expressed rather inarticulately last week, I was surprised by this proposal from you because along the way, you've always acknowledged that it was, according to the charter, the Common Council's work was to create policy and to set salary, etc. So, unbeknownst to me, you went ahead, in spite of the fact that you knew that council was working on a proposal, and you took this upon yourself, and I just don't understand in terms of process how you arrived at this decision.
It's my belief that there is a consensus to expand benefits in certain dimensions to make it more usable for our managers. And I felt the need to separate that issue from the other to make sure that we didn't throw any baby out with any bathwater and made sure that they got the expansion of benefits.
Is this a council prescribed duty according to the charter, or is it an executive?
I'll defer to council.
The mayor is a member of the common council. He's not a councilor, but he's a member of the common council, so he has an ability to introduce items. It's up to the council as a body to approve it or not.
Okay.
And one of my goals was to also make sure that our managers have no less a package of benefits than is common for managers in state and local government elsewhere. And I think we were slightly under national averages before. This would place us over national averages, but still I felt within the scope of what we can manage as a city and what they deserve. As you know, I've got reservations on any economic consequences of any package, but I feel that these are very manageable, but I still remain concerned about other packages until we can show the long-term support.
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Councilor Armstrong, I think kind of felt that the introduction of this kind of subverted the work of the committee that we're working on to work on a management compensation package. Is that?
I felt similarly, and in effect, that it was discrediting our work, and it promoted the idea that the mayor was the only one who could solve this problem, and that we were doing a poor job. We've sat down with the mayor, we've sat down with you, we've conferred with you since we decided to form this committee in September. You've been instrumental in almost every discussion we've had. You've been freely offering your opinions. We've consulted with corporate counsel, the labor attorney. We've conferred. You've personally conferred with managers. We have conferred with the Chamberlain. The process has been exhaustive. We felt as though we were going along with the process fairly well, and then when we met last regarding whether to go to a management compensation package that included merit raises instead of the salary schedule, I believe it was because of other items that we introduced that would amount to what was an increase in vacation days and sick days and so forth. At that point in the conversation, that was early November, you said, well, maybe we should just go to level 3 compensation and keep that distinct from level 4. And for my part, I was discouraged by that, and felt as though, even though there'd been a free flow of information regarding these topics, that suddenly all the collaboration had been ended, and that's the point at which Councilor Insel and I kind of went off on our own and worked with the corporate council to devise something of our own. So I just think the process has been really disappointing, and that this introduction of your resolution was another disappointment.
You may recall that you and Councilor Insel, our legal counsel, some other individuals met about a a month ago and essentially agreed on these points. So if we were agreed on these points, it seems to me very valuable to take these points and offer these out. You can then choose to augment them with other economic issues at your discretion. But if we had agreed on these points, it seems to me that we should level the playing field, make sure that all the managers clearly understand what their benefits package is. And I want to be very careful that I've always articulated that there's nothing we should do to take anything away from any managers, including the level 1s and including the level 3s, and this tries to do that. It takes nothing away, but liberalizes benefits in ways that I think are fair for the managers and that they've been asking for. An increase in sick leave accumulation rate, a provision to, this is 2018, to cover the unmarried domestic partners of our managers. They've asked for, and I think they fully deserve, to have their sick leave and vacation leave start accruing rather than having to wait an entire year to take a vacation. I think we can expand their personal days, or actually legitimize them, because currently personal days aren't on the books by resolution, they're only on the executive order. And they felt very strongly that we should be incorporating their longevity payment as part of their 26 pay period salary rather than do it a couple of times a year. So these are things that at one time or other managers have asked me for. It's asked if I would champion. I believe we ought to. I'm still got concerns about other issues. We need to find the money for the other issues. But it seems to me that we agree on all these, so why wouldn't we pass them?
So
But at that same meeting, Mr. Mayor, you also, if I remember correctly, said, yes, we're providing these for the managers, but what are they giving up instead? What are they giving up in place?
No, I think I asked, is this a negotiation? Because negotiation means a give and take. This isn't a negotiation. This is simply, does this make sense to the city, and does this benefit the managers? I'm not asking them to give up anything for this. As a matter of fact, I want to very clearly protect level 1s. There's been a lot of discussion in the past within this council and before I joined this council of sunsetting level 1s. I don't see any point in doing that. I don't see any point in taking anything away from anybody. But if we can liberalize some things that everybody's been asking for, and we all agree on that, I don't think there's a single person here that says any of these points I'm making are overreaching and too much. If we can agree upon this, why wouldn't we pass it?
So you're saying this is a lowest common denominator placeholder until the manager
This is something everybody agrees upon. People may want more. Of course, we all want more. But everybody agrees on this.
By the way, personal days have always been a part of the council approved.
No, they haven't.
Yes, they
They've
have.
never
I've
been
got the
approved
document right here.
And can I ask a question on this as well?
That's where, can you show me the resolution? Because this is something from the Human Resource Director's Office. There's never been a resolution for personal days. But there ought to be, and that's what I'd like to put in place here. I'm sorry, somebody had a question.
And I do have a question towards the end and second to the last paragraph. Such biweekly longevity payments shall not be considered as part of the employee's salary. Are they presently considered part of the employee's salary?
And no, and the managers actually came to me and asked if it instead should be part of the employee's salary, and I said, well, absolutely. I took that part from the previous resolution that this council put forward, but I would like to strike the word "not" out of that, if we could have an amendment.
Shall not be.
Shall be.
Shall be.
No, I mean, that's, it currently reads, yours
That's
currently
right.
reads.
And they brought that to my attention, and I said, absolutely, you're right.
I'll second.
But are they now considered part of the salary? So
You're reported to New York State as part of the salaries, yes.
So that is factored in as part of their final average
Yes,
salary.
that's correct.
And I think
For-
that's appropriate because like the manager say, it is their salary. It's just we have been paying it out in an odd way that doesn't seem quite fair.
Right.
Just to get everyone on the same page, I think there was a motion to amend it, you should clean it up, and if that is the intention, go through that formal process.
I'll move to amend remove the not from the third line of the penultimate paragraph of the resolution.
And Councilor Kelly, I believe,
And I'll
second. All in favor on the amendment?
Aye.
Opposed? Presume that passed. Further discussion?
There should be a roll call vote. 'cause I
Roll
don't
call,
think it was clear.
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Counselor Kretzer?
Yes.
Now, the other question I have on this resolution, I noticed that the other resolution put forth by the committee has specific language in there exempting level ones. Now, you mentioned that that you wanted to exempt level ones. Dean, does this resolution apply to level ones?
There's language that does not apply to, any provision does not apply if it's more restricted than a bona fide written agreement. So in 2006, there was a written agreement circulated amongst level ones. So that would it would not apply to level one agreements, no.
So if there's any clause in here that would make the benefits of level ones worse, that clause would not apply. Level one benefits would not be worsened, but it could be strengthened by this.
Is there a resolution for the level one benefits?
So there's a resolution for the level one, memorializing the level one agreements, yeah, in 2006.
There is such a resolution, 2006.
Now, the ultimate paragraph of this resolution says there shall be no further changes to any managerial benefits plan or agreement, and this resolution comes into effect on January 1st, 2019.
That doesn't prevent future changes. You can't, any council can never bind it, can never permanently bind itself. This is just saying that if there's something not covered by this resolution, it's not impacted.
It's not what?
Impacted.
So if we were, could this just be rolled into what we've tabled and going to work on in the future week, or?
It can be completely replaced by what we've tabled. I guess what he's saying is this would go into place if everyone's in agreement with it, in case the current one that's tabled continues to stall, I guess, or never gets passed.
But the one that we just tabled, under that scenario, then there's really no urgency to pass this.
No, that's true, especially since there's, it doesn't take an effect until January 1st.
Right.
Right, and, okay.
I think the only urgency is we're gonna be the council that goes down in history with the most items tabled at any given time. So we probably ought to act on something sooner or later.
I can vote on this.
I understand there was some process issues, but the meat of this is really good. It increases sick time. It provides health insurance for domestic partners.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of good
That's us
things.
hours. That's us hours. Call for the question?
Roll call.
Counselor Armstrong?
No.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
No.
Counselor Ensel?
No.
Counselor McFarland?
No.
Counselor Kretzer?
No.
Motion to remove item 7C from the table.
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Councilor McFarland. Second by Councilor Kelly. Discussion? Or all in favor of removing from the table?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Discussion of the item itself.
And I just wanted to make sure that this is the procurement policy. It will go into the handbook, but it's been tabled for a number of weeks now.
There's no reason not to address this. It's just to clean up because there are outdated references in the current procurement policy, and there's also a need to annually review and update the procurement policy, so it's something that we should keep on our agenda anyway. It's a standalone thing. We'll fit it in eventually if the handbook is approved, but it's a standalone policy. And I believe I gave a summary comparing the two a week or two ago.
Yes, and if I might, I'd like, do you have any way you would like to weigh in for or against Chamberlain Marks for the procurement policy change?
What was your question?
Would you like to weigh in terms of your evaluation of this policy?
I think it covers the requirements for purchasing a little more clearly than was stated before, a little more in depth. It takes the level of purchases down to, I believe, $3,000 to get more quotes, where it needs to be $6,000. But also it devises procedures for procurement as well as the policy itself, which we actually composed to try and streamline our requisitioning policy.
Okay.
So I think that we've covered most everything, and it looks like it's comprehensive.
Workable.
The other important thing is our current procurement policy has references to the city engineer, which no longer exists. So it certainly needs to be replaced, if not by this procurement policy, then another one, hopefully pretty rapidly.
Anyone unprepared to vote yet? Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Counselor Kretzer?
Yes.
Motion to remove item 7D from the table.
Seeing none?
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the Common Council approves a memorandum of agreement between New York State Division of Homeland Security and
I'd like to
Emergency
make a motion to
Services.
waive the reading and move the resolution.
Moved by Councilor Kretzer, second by Councilor McFarland. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Discussion on the item itself?
Yeah, yes, Chief, do you mind just describing what exactly this is for?
It's an updated resolution that New York State's requiring. We've already had the trailer for 2 years, and they do our training and everything with it. They just want an updated resolution with some options. We're part of a task force for crude oil already patrolling emergencies in New York State. We strategically place them along rail lines, and we were one of the ones that was chosen. So it's a great asset. It's about a $100,000 trailer.
Did we have a first and second on this?
Any further discussion? Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Counselor Kretzer?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the Common Council approves one police department employee to attend DCJS reality-based training instructor course training from December 10th through 14th, 2018 in Oriskany, New York. The total cost will not exceed $300 and will be expensed out of the asset forfeiture fund. The registration is free through New York State, and the lodging will be paid for by the Department of Homeland Security.
Moved by Councilor Ansel, second by Councilor McFarland. Discussion. Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Counselor Kretzer?
Yes.
Item 9. Gee, I don't have any resolutions for initial consideration. Are there any resolutions for initial consideration? Seeing none, new business and council reports. Any additional council reports or new business at this time?
I had something. I had a constituent make a recommendation, and I'm probably going to butcher the way she phrased it, but there was something about I was walking my dog down the street and there was a lot of salt on the sidewalks. Or no, I was walking my dog down the sidewalk would be more accurate. And she was suggesting that if the city actually, on places where the city owns, obviously, shovels in a little more uphill from the sidewalk, that when the snow melts there, it seeps into the ground and doesn't cover the sidewalk, so that less salt would need to be used. I don't, she actually pointed out some properties that would be effective. I told her I would bring it up at the council meeting. I'm not entirely certain, but she wanted me to bring that up to the Department of Public Works and
Counselor, let me, I'll look at that for you, okay? Give me the address, I'll look into it. Because there might be people putting salt on our own sidewalks.
I don't remember the address offhand, but I think I can find it for you.
Send an email.
Perfect.
But correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, come January and February, the ground is frozen, and so the water isn't going to seep in anyway when it's salted.
You have to salt, keep it, yeah.
My understanding of what she was saying was that sometimes like the snow on the top melts and it seeps down the hill and then freezes on the sidewalk.
Salt and sand. Okay. And then the temperatures.
Any other reports?
Yeah, I'd just like to clarify process going forward. There were a number of questions about our resolution, and I will need to probably speak to, we will probably need to speak to Chamberlain Marks and both council, and I'm just wondering if I could have direct email correspondence with him for that purpose.
Can you do that through my office
I can CC you,
or include me
include you.
in the discussions? A little bit of an update for Main Road. Would Beal offer a couple of comments for Main Road and
for the season, we shut down the project, completed all the paving, completed all the sidewalks of every residence and all the driveway aprons. We still have probably 30% of the sidewalk to complete at the east side, we've lost obviously the weather, and we have sod left and punch list items. So we'll probably pick this back up end of April, beginning of May. We have about 2 weeks worth of work left to complete. And then there'll need to be a conversation. I know there was some emails floating around concerning are those people subject to the snow removal law for this season? So we need to be a conversation about how we want to handle that. That's a council decision.
Yeah, so can you guess what, okay, so the old sidewalk is currently there, and no, it's just,
The west side of the project, the west side of the road, the sidewalks are 100% complete.
okay,
The east side, you probably have 30% plus every residence that has a driveway has a section of sidewalk, so we complete the apron into the property, so they can get from the street into their driveway, into their driveway. So we have, like I said, and I'd say 50% of the connecting sidewalk on the east side is about, if we're lucky, 3 to 4 days worth of work.
yeah, but I'm just still not clear about what the condition is where the sidewalk wasn't, new
When
sidewalk
there's no
wasn't.
sidewalk, it's sub-base materials been installed, so it's
Sub-base.
compacted gravel.
Okay, so in your view, is that something that can be shoveled or no?
No, it
No,
cannot be
so,
shoveled.
I mean, I think that's easy to clarify
That,
with the.
yeah, that is correct.
Okay.
I think the trickier issue is the council must decide whether, if they don't have the responsibility of shoveling their sidewalk because it isn't fully built out yet, do the people across the street have the responsibility of shoveling their sidewalk?
Right, but I understand that their sidewalks have been installed,
They have.
so, I mean.
But that's the answer, that's the question. The other part of the question is it's a work in progress. This project is not 100% complete.
Right.
So the argument could be made both ways.
Right.
And again, that's not a decision for Public Works to make, that's a decision for the mayor and council.
Right. Right.
What is your sense of what you would like for that street?
Well,
I mean, personally, I feel if the sidewalk on one side is not complete, that
They can't
there
be
shouldn't be
subject.
responsible for shoveling, but
But
if
your
the sidewalk is in
is-
place, absolutely be responsible for shoveling.
So the west
Seems
side should be
logical.
responsible for shoveling and the east side should not be? Is that what I'm hearing?
Until the project's complete, until their sidewalks are fully installed.
Baseline is, if you have a complete sidewalk, you shovel it.
Right.
Most likely, if under the driveways, I haven't shoveled the sidewalk, shoveled there. They'll clear that out. So
Right.
they don't have to drive.
Right.
Right.
So is it your sense that if they have a sidewalk that's been built, they shovel it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Anybody disagree?
Only if it's complete though.
Right.
Yeah, if
Right.
it's a finished sidewalk.
Sidewalk's complete, but the project is not
Right.
complete. Right.
That give you sufficient guidance?
It's really an enforcement issue. It's gonna come down to, the old building inspector's office
Yeah.
and how it's enforced. That's all.
Okay.
Does that help you, Joe?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, what I'm hearing is if there's a completed sidewalk in front of the property, they're responsible for clearing.
And those sidewalks are listed by address? Okay, would that be helpful information? Just in terms of the project to know it's all the west side?
It's all the west side.
All the west side. Okay.
Any other new business or council reports? Any closing public comments? Please be mindful of 5 minute time limit and state your name and address.
I'm Ryan Brienza and I'm a resident of the city of Plattsburgh. I was just wanting to ask the council what the status of ending the cryptocurrency mining moratorium was.
Brian, do you want to give the rest of the council a preview of what your interest in that subject is?
Sure, so I gave a proposal to Mayor Reed and Councilor Armstrong last week. I'm not sure if the rest of the council got it, but
It's in the mailboxes, yeah.
my company, Zafra, we are looking to place an invention that we've created in Plattsburgh around the city, which is a box we've made that contains the heat from these crypto mining machines and can disperse it into any building in the city. We are looking to deploy these at the Crate Center to start and any other city buildings, and in return, it would be free of charge of the city as well. You would get free heat, which would save the city money from cutting your electric bill and the heating bill at any of these buildings. We have investors behind us and we're ready to do this. We're just kind of looking for this moratorium to be ended so we're able to move forward with that. And it's heating season now, so now's the time that the money could be saved and it benefit the taxpayers and the city, and this would be a first in the world for Plattsburgh and everybody for this to be demonstrated.
I don't think any building code anywhere in the world has had that provision for heat recycling at temperatures lower than 40 degrees besides Plattsburgh. From what I understand, you've designed a box that's fully in accordance with the building code that you passed, including heat regeneration, the various safety measures that you imposed in your local law, etc. So I think the stumbling block is passing the noise ordinance that you stipulated you needed passed before you can remove the moratorium.
Right. So we need to pick that thread back up.
When does the moratorium expire at this point? It was 18 months, I believe.
18 months from adoption, but there's also a provision it can be ended by resolution. It
No,
doesn't
I
follow local
understand
law.
that, but what is the ultimate end
I think
date?
it was
Almost another
February
year
of
left.
17.
Yes.
Or February of 18, so.
That's when it started.
We have about 9 months left.
So do you mind if I just ask to clarify, would this mean the need to install cryptocurrency units in addition to then, so in other words, you have to have the unit there that generates the heat that can be redirected into, for example, the Crate Center. All right.
And this is energy neutral to a user because they would be able to turn their heat down as you turned your heat on. So that there's a complete offset for electricity use. It doesn't cost,
Is there
doesn't have any effect on the ratepayer.
is there a minimum kind of break-even point as far as the number of units that you need to have an operation for this to be?
At the moment, with the crypto market being suppressed, it's definitely not as profitable as it was back in March, but there is still some interest and we have the miners behind it. We could literally deploy one of these within a week from the interest that we have, so.
But I guess my question is, as far as with the moratorium being lifted, is this not, at this point, this device is not profitable under the current operating structure?
Well, at least from my knowledge is that the only way for us to deploy this is the moratorium needs to be lifted.
Because it's a new operation, it would be considered a new operation.
It would still end up being a high-density load based on the amount of power per square foot.
But at these buildings, there's already the existing electrical infrastructure that we can use, so there's nothing that has to be upgraded. We won't be using more than already what's there, so just kind of putting these in place to offset that electrical heat and in return give the city the free heat that we generate from our operations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other public comments at this time on any issue of mutual concern? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second by Councilor McFarland. Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Enzel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Counselor Cresser?
Yes.
Thank everybody for coming out tonight.
No. And I forget the titles of what they were. City something. But Richard won't be filled, right?
All right.
Well, very frankly, I think it may need to be a conversation that takes place over the phone. I have my kids tomorrow. Let me think about it. If you want to email me in the morning, I can see a bit more clearly what my arrangements